we had a multi-million pound pipeline. Got a phone call, Syed, there's this thing called COVID. I said, yeah, don't worry. 6 weeks later, lockdown 1. I could not believe it.
Welcome to another episode of the Island Monday podcast. Today we have entrepreneur Syed Ahmed. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, we met, I think about 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago.
Yeah, about 5 weeks
and
ago.
Since then, every public washroom I go into, I look to see if there's a dryer with an ad running. I haven't found one yet. But tell us a bit about Savortex before we deep dive into it.
So firstly, welcome to my world, because I get random text messages from all over the UK to say, hey, listen, I've just dried my hands with your dryer, Syed. So welcome to my world. And I've got to say, I don't like it when they text me 2 a.m.
Fair enough.
and wake me up. But other than that, it's all good. So Savortex is a technology manufacturer. We design and supply connected hand dryers and hand sanitizers that have sensors built in that allow building managers to create clean, hygienic, safe spaces.
Okay, and these are through dryers and then the smart tech behind the dryers, and you get paid per ad.
Yeah, exactly. So the product that we've got a range of products. So we've got this thing called the ad dryer. So that's a hand dryer with a screen built in that's got sensors connected to it, and that's connected to a content management system in the cloud. So as you go into a washroom facility, a commercial washroom facility, as soon as you put your hands underneath to dry your hands, we know you're standing there. So in that 10 seconds that it takes to dry your hands, we show you some internal marketing, an advert of anything that really drives hygiene within a commercial building. So we've monetized drying hands, basically.
Which no one has done before.
That nobody's done before.
That's the key part.
That's the key part.
Okay, so I want to deep dive into Syed as a person. You grew up in East London. Tell us about that.
So listen, East London boy at heart. I was 9 months old when my parents immigrated to the UK, and it was a really thriving environment, but it was quite a tough environment. So we used to live in Petticoat Lane. You had the Petticoat Lane market. It was very multicultural. There was a lot of racism and discrimination back then. And listen, East London was the place. It was thriving. My memories of East London have always been fun, colourful, but it was also tough. My dad was a tailor. Watching him kind of build a family, working extremely hard, 16, 17 hours a day as a tailor, really set the values for me, because the values of hard work, and what really inspired me about my father and my mother. My mother ran the business at home, father ran the business at work, but I remember an extremely happy childhood, but it was tough because it wasn't easy for them. So that really set the tone for me growing up. But East London's been great to me. One of the issues with East London was that it was quite a tough environment. There was a lot of, racism. There was a lot of crime, and one way to keep out of all that was to keep busy. So I remember when I was really young, learning from my father's hard work, and the fact that I knew that, he was struggling to keep pace because there was 7 of us. At a very early age, I wanted to kind of, be in his team and really start helping my parents raise the family. So that's my earliest memories. I remember there was a lot of, crime. But how I avoided all of that was by joining the Air Cadets. So I went to the Shoreditch Squadron, 444 Shoreditch Squadron at the age of 15. And that was one of the best things that I did, because it took me out of that whole East London culture of, back then hanging out street corners and just getting up to no good. So to me, that really helped.
Only Asian in the Air Cadet?
No, there was a few of us. Going into the Air Cadets really gave me a way to kind of get out of that culture and get into something where I was really busy. I was training, I was learning to be a pilot, a junior technician. Almost every weekend we'd be away in Wales, Scotland, climbing mountains. So I did my Duke of Edinburgh award scheme. So I did that for about 4 years. And then I had a stint in the Royal Air Force, where we were doing lots of training, lots of flying. So to me, East London early memories was fun. And it was back in the 70s, 80s. Petticoat Lane was quite a thriving place to grow up. So good memories.
Going back to when you were 9 months, I don't expect you to remember much, but did you come down with, or did your parents come down with you and your siblings, or were you sent before? How was that dynamic?
So it was my brother and I. So I was born in Bangladesh, along with my brother. And I was 9 months. My brother was, I think, 2 years. And it was just us two and our parents. And like I said, it was really tough. Life was tough for my father, but there was a lot of happiness. And then 5 sisters came along, a number of years after. And then we moved from Petticoat Lane down the road to Whitechapel, Cannon Street, that kind of area. Okay. Aldgate East.
Yeah.
Sorry, Aldgate East.
So what do your parents tell you about how you were living back then? Because from what I know from my grandfather, who came in the 60s, and my dad, who came in the 80s, a lot of the time it was one family per room. So was it a similar case for you?
My earliest memory of us living in Petticoat Lane was a real game changer for me. So I remember we used to live in a 1-bedroom house, my mum and dad in one room, and my brother and I in the other room. And there was a kitchen in the middle. And across our house was the National BNP HQ. So, and my dad used to go to work every day. And some days he'd be spat at, And I saw all of this. And what I saw was his discipline. He'd still keep his head down and just go to work because he had to provide for a family. Even though my dad, is not a guy that can be pushed around. We all have our limitations, but he just kept his head down and provided for the family. So for me, that was a great insight, even at that early stage. So it was a feeling of, I want to help him as soon as possible. It was a feeling of family unity. But I also knew that it was tough. It was quite a harsh environment, Petticoat Lane back in the days. And that's where the whole ambition for me started, was how quick can I take our family, how quick can I work with my parents? And also I realized that their ambitions were to give us the best platform in life possible. So for me, it was, how do I then take it to another level? Fast track 10, 11 years. I had, 5 sisters. And that really drove my next stage of my development, which was, okay, I need to get the qualifications that I need and the education that I need, but I need to start working. And I don't know why, it was this protective, drive in me to really make sure that all the girls had an incredible life and the best platform for them to go on and be successful. And, alhamdulillah, really blessed that my father, even though it was really tough for him, it was a very, very fruitful, happy memories. And I remember I was 8 or 9 years old, and back then feeler trainers were huge, and God knows why, a red feeler trainer. And they cost like, even back then it was 120, 130 pounds. Remember, it was really expensive. And I remember it would have been half of my dad's salary, can't remember the exact numbers, but he bought me my first feeler trainers. And that to me was like, okay, that's my hero. How do I then give him a bit of magic? So over the next 10, 15, 20 years, I worked with my parents. I put a strategic plan in place. And I remember sitting down with my parents and saying, hey guys, I'm on the team now. And I was itching to start to work. And I remember my first job, I worked as a waiter to earn an income. And it was at Harvey Nichols at the Oxo Tower. I think they just opened. And it was an incredible experience because you get to experience people, customer service, the training was fantastic. And that really was my first real job in the real world. And I got a taste for income. But my goal was always, how quick can I start a business? Because I realized that to provide, for 5, incredibly cute and thriving sisters, parents, mum, dad, and the other intention was to retire them as soon as possible. Because by that time, they'd already done 20, 22 years of hard graft. And I was really proud at the age of 19, 20, to sit my parents down and say, I'm on board now, we're gonna do this together. But my vision was that they shouldn't work. I wanted mum to focus on the family. And my mum's a good educator. So we came up with a plan to privately educate my sisters. So I would come home on a weekly basis, and my salary packet, back then we used to get salary packets.
In the brown envelopes?
In the brown envelopes. And I'd come and give that to my mum, and she'd give me my pocket money, and the rest would go into the family pot to then. And it's incredible the amount of barakah that was in that money. In fact, I think till this day, that's going to be, I'm astounded how we did half the things that we did. Because, my parents were able to use that to educate my sisters, to, and everything that the family needed. And that went on for years. And fast track 25, 30 years, I'm so proud. 5 incredible sisters I have. So you've got Noor Jahan, Momtaj, Shadika, Nahida, Nabila. And, there's lots of love and respect in our relationship, but more importantly, really good. I get along with all my sisters really, really well. I'm in business with the youngest sister who's launched an online educational business that's thriving. She was awarded, she won Sisters Businesswoman of the Year. She was on BBC News, educating the early age educators. And then Nahida also runs a woman's Islamic education corporate business in Canary Wharf. She teaches CEOs, etc., Arabic and all sorts of other subjects. Shadika has got 3 kids, thriving mother. She works for Tower Hamlets Council. And then Momtaj. And then Noor Jahan. So Momtaj, so all my sisters have got different personalities. Nabila's very efficient. Nahida's, her life's a postcard. Shadika's, she's got 3 kids. That's a lot of work. And then Momtaj was the sister that would genuinely, I think her ambition in life was to be a great sister, mother, daughter. She had no intentions of setting up a business and with Momtaj, what I loved about her was that because I'm quite specific with everything, how I eat, I love fish, I love grilled food, I eat healthy, I'm very disciplined with everything. And she really got that. So she would, if I would go around to her house 2-3 days before, she'd go and get the fish that I like, she'd cook the rice that I like. And even though I love all my sisters, Momtaj was special and she did that with everybody, my mum, my dad, relatives. You go to her house, you have an incredible evening. And unfortunately, we lost her about 8 years ago. She fell ill. It was a very bad digestive issue that meant that she had to have a surgery. And
is that the charity you set up in her name?
Yeah. And, and then unfortunately we lost her. And that was the first time in my life that, that I was like, whoa, okay, what's just happened? It was one of the first real impacts that I've had that really questioned everything for me. The whole burial process, and it was the first time that I reflected on life. What are we doing here? What's, really, because I've never been touched like that. When you lose someone that you love so much, and she had this passion to help orphans, women, and she was just before she passed away, she separated from her husband. They had some challenges. So 3 years ago, I set up a foundation to keep her in our memory, but also to experience charity in a different light, rather than just giving money, which we all do.
So where does this charity serve?
So the foundation is a CIO, and it took us 3 goes to get it set up in the UK, because the CIO, which is the charitable organization, they turned around and said that it was quite discriminating because we wanted the charity, the application was to help single female families on the breadline in third world countries.
Okay.
So Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, Syria, Palestine, all that. And the vision is to eradicate single female struggling families by providing all their food, nutrition, funding for the education, rebuilding their home if it's required, and then reintroducing them into society so that they can thrive. So we offer a home economics course, we open bank accounts, and in the last 2 years, I think we've supported 20 female families. We've had 8 graduates where they've come through our program for a year. And I'm talking, Zaid, really breadline. When we meet these families, I speak to every single mother from the UK. And it's incredible because, it's incredible when you get involved at that level.
So what are their circumstances like when you speak to them?
We can provide their entire food, education and medicine. And then what we do is we rebuild their home. That takes £2,000-3,000. So we rebuild their home, turn it into 2 or 3 bed, which is what we did with Sister Kolsuma. And then we, objective 1 is to really get them nourished. Objective 2 is to provide education to the kids. Objective 3 is whilst the kids are at school, let's then work with the mother, and we teach her home economics, open a bank account, just really start empowering her. And then we train her for a year, and then we buy her a sewing machine, and then she starts sewing for the local community. We've had, and it's incredible, small baby steps. We've had 8 graduates who are now earning enough, they don't need us.
So how does that make you feel, your family feel, knowing that you're doing all of this in your sister's name and you're empowering single females, and not only are you just doing the standard basic, give them £100 a month that will feed them, but you're actually empowering them and educating their kids. How does that make you feel? How does it make your family feel?
You know, I really felt the impact of how it feels when last year I went to Bangladesh with my mother, my sister, and the foundation cars came to pick my mum up and all of us up. We went to see some of the families we support, and we went to see around 10, 15 families. I can't remember exact numbers. And as my mother walked into one of the villages, our very first mother that we supported came running out and just gave me a massive hug and said, "Syed Bhai, you have no idea what you've done to my family." And then everybody started crying. My mum, my sister, and I really felt the impact of the difference between giving just money and actually getting involved and helping people, understanding their story, etc. It feels incredible. I've never experienced that level of joy when you really touch someone's life in a way where it transforms. So what transpired was that Kulsuma's in-laws, after her husband passed away, were trying to kick her off her land with the kids. I had no idea. All I remember is the project manager telling me, "Syed Bhai, there's a situation here. What do you want me to do?" And I have a vague memory of saying, "Please go and tell the local council that behind Kulsuma is the foundation. And if they mess with her, then we're going to bring a legal whatever." So my PM went and enforced that. They backed off. So when Kulsuma came up to me and hugged me, that's what she was thanking me for. That, listen, you have no idea. So we do things with one intention. Of course, our intention is to help, support, but the outcome is incredible. So for me, it's changed my world of my understanding of how to help people. For my entire family, the fact that Momtaj Foundation is everywhere. We've done 7 projects where we've excavated land. I was negotiating with the landowners from London. So when you know that you're helping people on that level, it really is an extraordinary feeling. But I want to say I've never done charity or philanthropy to feel great. I've done it genuinely to help people. But what I've experienced with Momtaj Foundation is that feeling is priceless. And it's very difficult to put into words. Just created a joint venture with One Ummah, where we're providing food packs to Palestine, Syria, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Yemen, and it's just totally gone into another level. Hundreds of people are now helping. Friends, family, my sister's the lead fundraiser, she's incredible. My mum runs an educational program, she has 250 participants, so she's run campaigns, so the whole family, are involved, and it feels great,
So this charity that you're doing now, before your sister passed away, was it just a standard that you'd give money to charity and that's it? And now you've taken your charity to like a whole nother level?
Yeah, listen, my entire, you know, philosophy around giving has changed, because like, you know, previously you'd give zakat or you'd give donations and that's it. You just give money. And that's very important. But what we're doing now is a complete different level of support. And it's very, very satisfying and fulfilling. And I have a vision, I have a goal, inshallah, that I would like to, within the next 5 years, exit Savortex. And do you know what's incredible? I'm more enthused now to do that than I've ever been. Because I want to grow Savortex and sell it so that I can use that success to take Momtaj Foundation every year to another level. So this year we are now weaved the foundation into our investment deck, into our sales presentations. And because it's a foundation, there's huge pots of money available to support female-led families. But also it's taken my ambition to another level. I've got this new lease of life where I'm in a rush, in a nice way. I want to grow and scale Savortex so we can exit it and I can go full-time into Momtaj Foundation and keep innovating.
How many other businesses have you had before Savortex?
So my very first company was an IT recruitment business. And that's where I developed my passion for technology and IT. It was called IT People. It was one of the most successful experiences I've had in business. It was really quick success. We won a number of awards. I think within the first year, we scaled the business significantly. And I started the company. It was me, a phone. And back then, recruitment, there was no computers. So we'd have paper CVs. And it was me on the phone, just selling IT contractors into corporates. And I found my niche. I was good at it. And one of the things that I always do with anything that I work on is I try and find ways of rapidly scaling through coming up with new ways of doing that thing. So IT People, one of the things that we created was we would give IT contractors free trials into commercial projects, which was a fantastic way to give the client a sample of, you know, the contractor's skill set and his technology, to then take that person on a 6-month contract. That was a game changer. We were doing, I think year one, we did about 143 contract deals, which was unheard of in that industry. And we did it through free trials because there were so many contractors and there were so many jobs. It was always each role would get 10, 20 CVs. What we did was we came up with a way to say, no, take 3 of our candidates on a free trial for 24 hours, and then you pick who you want to continue working with your contract. So that was my first business. My second business was headhunting, financial services. Again, I set up in Canary Wharf, did really well in year one. I sold it to 2 brothers. And about 18 months later, unfortunately, they got into, you know, they didn't take it down the right direction. So I remember the phone call that I got from one of the brothers, say, hey, Syed, can you come and help us? You know, it hasn't worked out. So, and I felt, I was a shareholder, I felt responsible. So I went back in and over 12 months helped them close the business down. But I learned more from that 12 months in business than I did the last, you know, setting up my first company and exiting it, because I had to go in and help them dissolve the company. You know, it was a really, it was a tough experience, but I learned a lot from that. And then I set up, and then came the Apprentice. And the timing was perfect because I just, you know, exited this business. And you know what? I left the recruitment industry because I felt it lost its soul. And I wanted something that was highly scalable globally. So, you know, internationally scalable. But I also wanted something that had an environmental impact. and a business that would change an industry.